action and the day that St Kilda stamped their authority on the competition, and perhaps tonight the coming of age of the Western Bulldogs. A wonderful performance by the young Bulldogs tonight, Andy.
Exhilarating Adam Cooney. He was just absolutely spectacular. I'm sure we'll talk to Tim Lane about that in a minute. A day of shootouts and slugfest, wasn't it? 41 goals kicked at the Telstra Dome, 40 at the G, only a handful at Amy Stadium.
14 to be exact.
Not too many more at Subiaco. Four contrasting games today of each of two. It was an amazing day of footy, and the two games tonight were just spectacular.
Let's have a close look at today's results, and what a performance by the Saints. They doubled Melbourne's score, defeated them by 88 points. Gary kicked 7, Del Santo 5, and Stephen Powell and Lenny Hayes got amongst the possessions for the Saints.
Fair to suggest that West Coast kept Hawthorn in this game for much of the afternoon, 12-25. If it had been 25-12, it would have been a horror story for the Hawks. As it was, they were competitive for about 2.5 quarters, but always outclassed.
And tonight at Amy Stadium, the Crows, well, they kicked 3 goals in 3 minutes in the third quarter, but gee, a tough, hard slugging affair. 152 tackles. In the end, it was the Crows by 7 points.
I think we'll be talking about this game of footy for quite some time. We might be looking back at this as the day that maybe 1 or 2 young Bulldogs really arrived. What a magnificent way for Brad Johnson to celebrate 250 with 5 goals. Scotty West continues to rack them up. Simon Black, Nigel Lappin, a bunch of the Lions were just heroic in defeat, but the night belonged to the Western Bulldogs.
Certainly did. Well, let's take a close look at the ladder. Still, of course, 3 games to complete round 18. The Eagles and the Crows establish their positions at the top of the table, but look at St Kilda into 3rd position, and Melbourne just at the moment hanging on to 8th position.
And Richmond knocking on the door outside the 8. It's suddenly become a whole lot louder. A bunch of teams above them doing them all sorts of favours so far this round, as they have done for Port Adelaide, as they have done for Fremantle. Those 3 clubs tonight will be getting very, very excited about the prospects tomorrow. They should be anyway. And the Western Bulldogs just sniffing around. A few of us, myself included, completely wrote them off a little while ago. It looks unlikely, but there's still mathematically a bit of a chance.
Absolutely. Well, let's focus our attention on the big game at the Telstra Dome tonight. What a performance by the Bulldogs. As we say, a very good evening to Tim Lane. And Tim, well, it was a wonderful performance by the Western Bulldogs, and sparked in that final quarter by the brilliant Adam Cooney.
Well, Michael, I'm not sure whether I've ever seen a game quite like it. The Bulldogs kicked 9 goals in 17 minutes in the second quarter. They led by 47 points, and yet early in the last quarter they trailed. Rodney Eade made an inspired move. He took Cooney off. He hadn't really been a factor in the match. He spoke to him on the phone. He threw him back, and suddenly an inspired Cooney took control of the centre contest. He made a string of clearances. He was absolutely breathtakingly brilliant through the next 10 or 15 minutes, set up 2 or 3 goals, and the Bulldogs, once they got the sniff of it again, were absolutely irresistible. And some of the Bulldog fans in the crowd had a sign up saying, "Rodney Eade, our inspiration." It's a new sign, obviously less than a year old. Well, I reckon he really was tonight, because that move with Cooney, the talk he gave him, and the impact Cooney had really told the story of the match in the last half of the last quarter.
And Griffin and Ray seemed to join in, Tim, as if inspired by Cooney, who was given the ultimate accolade almost at the end of the game of having Michael Voss trying to stop his influence. But the 3 young guys in together, the high draft picks that they are, all chipped in and did their bit together, almost in unison.
I think Ryan Griffin has adapted to the tempo of the game quicker than Cooney did in his first season. And at one stage last year, a 4-bounce run off the half-back line where he took on a series of would-be tacklers and had the confidence and assertiveness to do it all and set up a goal was absolutely crucial. And he made a telling contribution. But they had many contributors. This truly was an astonishing performance, and they are a team to watch and enjoy for next year. As it is, they're probably going to be a game out of the 8 with 4 weeks to go.
Amazing.
Well, Tim, one of those contributors was, of course, Brad Johnson, playing game number 250, 27 possessions, 12 marks and 5 goals. Unbelievable.
Yes, well, at the start of the telecast tonight, we had a very moving tribute from Rowan Smith to his teammate and great mate Brad Johnson. He talked of how much the club means to Brad and of how much Brad means to the club. And you could see it all there tonight. He was prepared to lay it all on the line, and his teammates were prepared to do likewise for him. he will remember this match for a long time. Up until this, he hadn't had a victory in a major landmark game. They played a draw against the Eagles in his 200th, but this was a victory, and it's one that won't be forgotten.
Did you get a sense in the house, so to speak, tonight, Tim, as to what the pre-game tragedy surrounding Lee Matthews, the impact that might have had on the whole Brisbane setup?
You can only guess. There was nothing obvious about it other than the black armbands that were worn both on the ground and in the commentary box and on the bench down below us. John Blakey took control. It was a baptism of fire for him. He made some bold moves. He threw McGrath to the back end of the ground, and Chris Johnson went forward, so he made some radical moves. But in the end, I think what told most of the impact that the death of Lee Matthews' mother this afternoon had on Brisbane was the way in which they fought this out. Even when it was over, even when it was finally lost, they weren't prepared to say die. And a shot of Simon Black vomiting halfway through the last quarter, I think said it all, that he and many around him were prepared to give all they had and more to try and make it a special night for Brisbane. They lost on the scoreboard, but they didn't lose any admiration from those who watched the game.
Well, Tim, thanks for joining us. A wonderful game of football. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks, Chriso.
Yes, it certainly was. 28 points the margin in the end. Well, now let's turn our attention to Amy Stadium, and it was a slugfest. Just 7 points in it at the end, just 14 goals kicked for the match, and ironically, Andy, 3 goals in about 3 minutes for the Crows at the start of the third quarter, which was probably the difference.
They kicked 3 in the first half, Chris. They kicked 5 outside of this little burst for the match. That's how defining this period was in the course of the overall winning and losing of this particular game. 3 in just under 120 seconds of footy was amazing stuff. This was a game that a lot of people are going to probably speculate and speak about in less than glowing terms. But the hardness of the contest, the physical nature of this game, I think a lot of footy purists will probably walk away thinking they saw a remarkable game of footy tonight. As you said before, 152 tackles in this match.
It's quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well, I just added up the other tackle counts in total from the other 3 games today. 110 at the G, and that was a war zone there today. 87 at Telstra, so twice as many almost as there was at Telstra. 79 at Subiaco. That gives you some sort of insight into how tight and hard that game at Amy Stadium was tonight.
And the last 4 scoring shots of the match were from the Swans.
Yeah.
They were all behind, so they had their chances at the end, the Sydney Swans, but couldn't get over the line. Adelaide by 7 points. Well, now time to turn our attention to Saturday specials.
It's
And we start at the MCG with some brilliance from Nick Del Santo.
Holding on, no, Del Santo for his 4! Oh my goodness!
Ashley McGrath's becoming a bit of a Saturday special regular. What a brilliant dodging goal this was.
McGrath, ever dangerous around the sticks. Has it got the legs? Yes, it has.
Not a bad first goal in AFL football to Clinton Young.
He gives it out. Snap around the corner is an absolute beauty.
Just one of the young pups you're going to see a lot of in the years to come. Farron Ray.
Some freakish stuff from Brett Burton at Amy Stadium.
Burton, tight in the pocket. The Birdman, don't tell me! What a goal!
Aaron Hamill, just lovely to have you back.
50. Oh, Hamill, what a spectacular attempt he's been paid. Is this Mark of the Year?
Yes.
John Syracuse again.
Luke Ball, up, down, up, goal.
High flying full forward, couldn't quite drag that one down, but he still might kick a goal anyway. He can do it all.
It doesn't get more courageous than this. David Weirpunda.
Running out hard with Punda with courage, diving it.
Adam Goods had 33 touches tonight, a career high. This, the best of them.
This time Goods. What could he do? He kicks a goal.
Stephen Milne at his dodging and dancing best at the MCG. Early, chips it to that player Milne, who takes the mark just outside 50. Wants to get around Johnson and does. Stephen Milne, superb stuff. What a finish.
And Chriso, what about this for a bomb from Mark Rasciuto?
Rasciuto unloads with a long ball.
Not a bad way to fish.
75 metres.
We're going to take a break on the fifth quarter, but as we go to the break, I reckon this about sums up Melbourne's day at the MCG.
We are now on the countdown to the end of Big Brother.
There are only 3 weeks to go, and it's anyone's game to win. Following a 1-hour daily show, 6:30 Sunday, it's an all-girl lineup on the eviction chopping block.
Melanie, Kate, Vesna.
It's never been such a tough decision.
Then Monday, the final nomination show. As the housemates get closer, their last nominations will be their hardest.
2 huge nights of Big Brother, Sunday and Monday.
The 1996 preliminary final.
Kelly a snap around his body. He's kicked the Cowboys goal.
After 60 years of trying.
What a goal! James Hurd plays on. Essendon can hit the front. He's there. He's going. Scored.
After 100 minutes of slogging their guts out.
Kick towards Look out. Lock's going to be back. Lock's got it.
After the final siren sounded.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The scene is set. You couldn't get it any better than this. What a finish. Any score. Otherwise, we played extra time. Lockett, the most important kick of his career. Any score will do.
Powerade. It ain't over till you say it's over.
Now is the time to call Gotta Get Her.
Right now, book just one of our services, you get another for half price. Rendering roller shutter security, half price. Guttering roofing, half price. Carports, verandas, half price.
Thought about ringing us? This is the real deal. What about downpipes? $1. Roof vents? $1. Remote controls for roller shutters? $1. Even cancel approval? Just $1.
Plus, no deposit, interest free. That's no deposit.
Strictly limited offer. You gotta call now.
Free your sensitive skin. New Nivea Visage Sensitive Balance. With its unique active relief formula, instantly calms and strengthens your skin. New Nivea Visage Sensitive Balance. The active relief for sensitive, reactive skin.
Now also for men. New Sensitive Moisturiser and Face Wash.
Plenty of action at the MCG this afternoon, including that collision between Brett Voss and the umpire. And wasn't a full-on bumping collision, Andy, but it was more just a tripping, and Brett Voss not happy there.
I don't think the umpire was terribly happy either, Chris. I think the people who adjudicate on these sorts of things might think that there's a bit of an issue there because Voss wasn't blindsided by the umpire. They will think that Voss had the umpire in his field of vision and had to do everything in his power to avoid contact, which the onus is on the players to do that. We understand that now.
But he did deviate. He did try and get around, and the umpire was running with the flight, but he was only a metre away from the ball. You've got to be careful, I reckon, when you are umpiring, that you don't get that close, and it's not easy to do. But he was very close to where the ball was.
That's
the player
right.
who was Voss eventually tackled.
And they got a full pace, weren't they? And they intersected on their way out of the ball and to the ball. In the call, you were asking the question. I think Sauce and Hutto were both pretty adamant that there shouldn't be anything looked into that. Having seen it a couple of times now, do you think that...
Oh, no, I just thought that at the time it would be looked at. I certainly hope that nothing comes of it because even at the time, didn't think there was anything in it. Well, it started in a blaze of glory at the MCG this afternoon. It was on because Nick Revolt was targeted by Melbourne, so it seemed, and they were at him from all angles.
Oh, no doubt about it. I think Grant Thomas certainly said that they had an agenda. Melbourne, after the game in his press conference, even though Neil Danaher suggested that there wasn't any pre-arranged plan, but they came at him at every single opportunity, and Paul Wheatley was generally